Hey everybody, welcome to episode 143 of Making It. I'm Bob Clagett here with Jimmy Diresta in a bathroom.
That's right, I'm coming to you live and direct from a bathroom in the Hilton in Chicago. Fabtech 2017. Hello everybody.
We also have David Picciuto, not in a bathroom.
Not in a bathroom, in an office. Good morning, guys.
How's it going?
Very good.
Going great. Where are you, Dave? You look like you're in a new spot in the house.
I just switched the desk to the other side of the wall. So what you see behind me, it's a mahogany paneled wall, and that's coming down, and it's going to be drywalled.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
You hate mahogany?
Okay.
I hate mahogany that's all warped and curved, and it really looks awesome on camera, but in person, you're like, ew.
Right.
Yeah. Is it just the thin paneling, or are they like actual pieces that you could use?
They are actual pieces I could use, yeah.
Ooh.
So it's not like a plywood paneling. It's just thin pieces of mahogany.
So you're going to take that beautiful coffered ceiling down?
I'm going to recarpet everything. The ceiling, the walls, the floor, the door,
Nice.
the window. Yeah.
With like tiles, like a carpet tile.
Yeah.
Yeah. Carpeting the windows. Classic David.
Oh, classic Picciuto.
How's the shop?
We just made our first full project in the shop yesterday. Or we
Awesome.
got started. We made a pair of file cabinets, walnut file cabinets. Almost got it done. It's fantastic. It's warm, cozy. I'm learning some. I'm using the carpet as a gauge to determine like how well my dust collection is, and it's going to be my motivation to try to minimize dust and chips as much as I can.
Fingernails.
Fingernails. Ugh, we're back on
Gross.
that. Yeah. So I think the one thing that I can't quite figure out. Well, there's two things: is the drill press and the lathe. They produce a lot of chips, and chips go everywhere. I think for my lathe, I have a little Rockler dust collector that kind of wraps around the piece, but I'm thinking about getting rid of the base legs and have it sit on a platform with kind of like little lips around it. So at least
Like
all
a
the chips
chip tray, like you would see on a metal lathe, a chip tray.
Yeah. And then maybe do something like that on the drill press as well.
Yeah.
You know, I've never used any of those dust collection type things for a lathe. I've seen those where there's kind of a hood that wrap around the back. Mm-hmm. Do you think those would work better if they had some sort of a positive pressure on the front of them? Like if you had a fan blowing into it to actually force those pieces back?
Well, I don't know. It works fairly well with the fine dust. Maybe not so much the chips. Maybe that forced air would help with the chips. But when I'm sanding, and you can see the fine dust goes right into right into the dust collection. It's when you have the big chips and you're roughing away something. That's when those things go everywhere.
Yeah, and I guess they're being forced towards you anyway, for the most part, or up or whatever. But crazy. Anything else about the shop that you found so far that like this has to change right away, or
No, not quite yet. I'm only one project in, so I'm sure. I think the only thing that might change is placement of tools, trying to figure out the right spot. So
yeah, like I know that we found that I had a couple of dark spots relative to the amount of light that was everywhere else. So this past week we like added another light and kind of tried to even it out. Running into stuff like that, the more you film. The more I film, the more those type of things I find that I have to tweak.
There's one. It's a silly thing, and my sliding wall, the behind my bench is a panel of 6 hollow core doors, and they all slide, so you can kind of open up into the closet. And I wallpapered that with like this stacked stone pattern, and in person, it looks really awesome. On camera, though, it looks kind of green screen because the light will hit the dark parts of it, and they're not completely black. They're kind of gray, and it doesn't have a cool effect on camera. So that will probably change soon. But that's just an aesthetic thing.
I hadn't even thought about it, but like, does it have any weird reflections, like from the lights that kind of make it feel more 2-dimensional? Because it looks pretty 3-dimensional from the pictures that I've seen.
Yeah.
Make it a green screen and just make it do whatever setting you want in the back anytime you want.
Woodworking in space.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Maybe. Yeah.
Green screen your old shop in there, so you maybe like see like okay, everyone wants to see my old shop, and just like and it becomes the old wooden wall.
I could definitely do it. I have one of those green screens that fold up into a big circle and then it poofs out. It's like a 4-foot by 8-foot screen, and I could definitely do that. And that would. There's always something a little unnatural about green screens, even if you're really, really good at keying and all that. So I could see that being annoying to some people, which could be fun, I guess.
The cheesier it is, the better.
Yeah.
I want to see like a little fuzzy line around you the whole time.
Yeah.
You got a force field on while I'm woodworking. Check this out.
Yeah, and I want like the whole like if you happen to have like a green handkerchief, I want there to be a hole right in your chest, you know, sticking in your pocket. Of the background.
Yeah.
Or
Awesome.
green hat, the top of your head is missing.
Well, Jimmy, where are you? When you're in a bathroom.
I'm in a
where are you?
bathroom in the Hilton in Chicago. I'm at 720 South Michigan Avenue. We're in Fabtech. My buddy Ryan's with me, so he's in the room. So that's why I'm hiding in the closet in my new sound room, in the bathroom. But Fabtech here, I was here for Lincoln. I was here with April, John Malecki, Johnny Brook, Zach Harberbolts, Doug Retroweld. I hope I didn't forget anybody. And we had an amazing time. We really had a great time as a crew, and we had a great time working with Lincoln. Lincoln was just amazing hosts. They really provided everything we needed, and we just had such a great time. And just spent the last 2 days at Fabtech. It goes on for 2 more days, but I'm leaving today. And Fabtech was just incredible. Just so many inspiring interactions with fans and companies and people at companies, and so many people just praising what we're all doing. And just I could talk more about it, but just such a great week, and I made so many good contacts. And my building, by the way, a little update on my building as well. Kyle finished enclosing the building. He didn't cut out the window holes, so if you look at Kyle's Instagram, you'll notice that the windows are still covered, but they're framed inside. And his job is done. He finished the roof. The roof is obviously the most important thing for a structure that's sitting there. So the roof is completely done. It's black, standing seam metal roof. It looks gorgeous. And now I'm starting to get a little bit of a trickle of emails of people. Like everybody I met at the show is like, "Oh my God, that shop's incredible." "Oh my God, I can't believe I'm so happy to be watching that building process." And Kyle probably had 15 to 20,000 subscribers in the last 2 weeks since he's been at my house, and his Instagram is blowing up, and it's such an exciting thing. And now I have so much more work to do. Kyle often says it because his job is the easiest one. Now I got to deal with the floor, the walls, the electric, and the second floor, and all that stuff, and the windows and the siding. So it's going to be interesting to see. I'm going to try and pull in if anybody wants to sponsor any of it. I'm going to try and pull those guys in. But at the end of the day, I think it's all up to me. People always say, "Oh, get someone to sponsor." We talked about that last week. I'm like, "Oh, give me $10,000, $100,000 worth of material." I'm like, nah. I'll give it to you for give it to you for designer costs, which is like 10% off. But we'll see. We'll see where it goes as far as the rest of the building. But I'm definitely anxious to keep moving on it, and it's there now, and I have no option but to keep moving on it. So that's definitely, that ball is in motion forever. But just being at the show is just very, very, very energizing, and there's so many things that are possible. It's just incredible to see this world.
The shop does look amazing from the Instagram post that I saw.
Thank you.
And the first thing that I wanted to do was fly a drone around on the inside of it. Have you done that yet?
Oh yeah, I did a little bit. You'll see in the next video I put out. There's all chains and stuff in there that shored the building up. I did like a kind of a little techie interview with Kyle. It'll be on the next vlog, which will probably be out this Friday. I haven't had a chance to put it together, but yeah. So, and Kyle's he's like a hotshot drone pilot. I'm always joking with him. I'm like, he's like, what is that movie with the guys that fly? What is that called?
Top Gun.
Top Gun. Those guys that fly planes. He's like a Top Gun pilot. The minute he sets his drone up in the air, he's like janking on the controls, left, right, up, down. He really has it all down. He flies it so often when he's filming his jobs. So he flies it inside. He does everything. he flies it through the rafters, which is like super tight. But yeah, it's just so exciting. The building, it's an exciting time in my life. I just want to keep the momentum going.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It's fun.
Well, for me, what have I been doing? It's kind of hard to remember.
What's going on, Bob?
I don't know. I have no idea what's going on. We started some dust collection in the shop finally, which is really cool. Putting in like a legit fixed system. And it's all plumbed up and working well. It's all manual. So I feel like a caveman because I got to go around and open and close gates like an animal.
Oh my God.
So next up is, and I'm currently working on some automation stuff to make that not have to happen. But it's really cool. The automation is kind of ran into some mechanical problems I got to figure out with the new blast gates. But essentially, I'm doing what I did before. My old system where I had a keypad and I could hit a button and it would open and close all the right gates to turn on suction to a certain tool. So I'm getting rid of the keypad, and now it will be voltage draw. Anytime a voltage is drawn from a certain tool, it triggers on the dust collector and automatically flips all the right gates in the right section.
Wow, fancy.
All DIY. No, I'm not buying any components that do that. Like there's people sell systems that do that, but it's all really simple, really inexpensive components to make the electronics. The mechanical part of it, getting the gates to be able to open and close with a spinning motor or a servo, that's where it's like I understand how to do it, but the technical stuff of actually doing it is where we are right now. So, but it's really exciting.
Can you have two gates open at the same time, or is it always just one? Yeah.
No, I mean it's the Arduino is the brain that when you say like this tool is triggered, set the state of every gate. So there are branches, and so sometimes you do have to have more than one open to make sure suction goes from the collector all the way to the tool because there's different branches along the way. So yeah, you can definitely kind of tell it to do whatever you want it to do. So we're working on that. I've got a video coming out Thursday. Well, I guess it'll be out by the time this is out. A skateboard hanger, and so we've got a bunch of skateboards for the house. And I've seen people make like hangers where you can stack the boards horizontally and you can just slide them in. So you can stack a bunch of boards on top of each other.
Oh yeah, you just saw like the prongs sticking out.
Yeah, and that's fine. But of course I want to make it difficult for myself. So I decided to, and I also wanted to be able to hang a helmet with a skateboard. So my kids are encouraged to, when they grab a board, also grab a helmet. Right. And so I ended up welding this. It kind of looks like an upside down question mark. It's got like a hook, and it's a hexagon with two missing sides, so that the skateboard trucks fit into those missing sides and kind of hook down into this hook. And then there's a post that sticks out of the top that has a little platform for a helmet to drop on. And
how many skateboards will it hold?
It's just a single. And so I was trying to come up with like a way that everybody could have their own, like their own board and their own helmet in a line on the wall. And this was one of several different ideas I had. And after making it, like it's totally impractical to make 5 more of these. It would take way more time than it's worth. And so, it was an interesting proof of concept, but it's not something that I would, if you had one, that's cool. But if you have a family of 6 with 6 skateboards and 6 helmets, it's not worthwhile. So I'll have to come up with some other ideas for the other ones. But it was interesting, and I got to work on my welding.
Make a wooden jig, so you could always do that.
Well, the mechanics of like holding it together, that wasn't bad. It was mostly just the amount of welding, the amount of grinding to get rid of all the welds. Just the amount of stuff. It just took more time than it was worth for me. And obviously, the more you do it, the faster it would get, I guess.
You could also just another tip I did once, and everyone's like, "Oh, that's a great! I did this a long time ago." If you have like a long tube, are you making your hook out of solid or hollow tube?
Square tube. Yeah.
So you could notch it and just bend it, so it's always on the outside wrap. It's always at least connected. So you just weld it. So it doesn't open up.
I did consider that, and I don't know why I didn't actually try that.
If you have a good bandsaw, that's a good technique to do. Like held into place where you could kind of push it in and out of the blade.
Yeah. Do you end up with, like, when you do that, the outside edge where it's bent, do you end up with, like, a good radius on that bend, does it end up being pretty sharp? I guess it depends on the thickness of the material.
Depends on the thickness of the material, and even if it's 16 gauge, it won't be sharp. As long as you don't cut into the inside of that wall. If you give it, the more you cut into that wall, the sharper that outside bend will be. If you don't cut into it at all, you'll have a nice smooth radius, and you can always smooth it later.
Yeah.
So it's an application. You got to make a decision when you use it, where you use it.
Yeah. So that's what I've been doing. Got to practice my MIG welding a lot. I did end up getting a TIG welder. I know we talked about TIGs.
Yeah.
I got
a lot about that this week.
I got the AHP, and I looked around at a bunch of different options, and it was like, I don't know, less than half the price of, like a Lincoln TIG, like a basic one. I looked at a bunch of different brands, and I know a guy here in town who has the same AHP one. He was like, I love it. I mean, it's what I learned to weld on. It works great. It's relatively simple. And so I figured as a way to start, I would try it out. So I got that in this past week. I don't have 220 run yet, so I can't really use it yet. But I did get a new tank of argon for it, and I'm kind of getting all the stuff I need to be able to try it out. So hopefully in the next week or two, I'll be able to set all that up and actually try it for the first time. I did watch, you said you were hanging out with Douglas from Retro Weld.
Yep.
He put out a video this past week, or maybe the week before. I watched it this past week, where he spent time with Jody from Welding Tips and Tricks, and Jody gave him a TIG lesson. And so he relayed a lot of that information to into a video on his channel. And that was really helpful for me going into it, not knowing anything about the, I've heard people talk about the mechanics of like how you move your hands and where, how you feed and all that stuff, but I've never actually seen someone do it in a clear way. And he shot it with the exposure down so that you can actually see what's happening. You can see the puddles move back and forth. And that was, just seeing that made me like, oh, I understand the motion now. Now I just have to practice it, but that was really helpful. I'll link that in the show notes because that was pretty awesome.
Yeah, no, it was a great week of having a lot of conversations about all those different techniques. Unfortunately, I didn't get a chance to really try. There was a teacher here letting everybody try and giving some really important instruction, but I did not have. I was talking the entire 2 days. I didn't have a chance to kind of break away and test weld with some of the, the instructional guys here. But talking, so many just like conversations. I'm like, oh, I didn't know that. Oh, that makes a lot of sense. Having a little bit of practical experience with the TIG welding, aluminum specifically, is what I was really digging into. So, yeah,
and that's really what I'm interested in it for. I mean, after doing this like skateboard hanger, I can see why being able to cleanly TIG would have saved me a lot of time on that, because I wouldn't have had to go back and grind everything down smooth if I'd been able to make prettier welds in the first place, But the aluminum welding is really the thing that that's what's driving me to be interested in TIG, so that I can make an aluminum rack for the top of my Land Cruiser and expose the welds as part of the look of it, rather than trying to, which I've always done, is just try to hide them, is try to grind them back flat. Right. And that still is necessary sometimes, but that's kind of my motivation for it. So we'll see how far I get with it. I don't know. Before we talk about what we're going to talk about, I want to thank our Patreon supporters. We were talking about this before we hit record.
Sorry.
Fire. There's a fire. What was that?
My alarm for me to wake up at 9 o'clock. Every day I think I turn all those little green buttons off, but they're always on. I'm being in the middle of a store somewhere, and I'm like, whose alarm is going off? And it's mine the whole time.
That alarm sound, I used to use that, and Kelly is like, no more. That is the worst alarm sound ever.
Yeah.
Anyway,
we were talking about Patreon before we hit record, and just how crazy it is. How many people we have gained supporting us on Patreon in the last, 6 months or so. But it's really awesome, and we're very grateful for everybody who supports us there on any level, because it really does make a difference. I was talking to somebody this past week about sponsorships within podcasts, and I was saying how for YouTube, I actively pursue sponsorships because that's the biggest way for me to make money and the biggest way for me to continue to do what I do. On this podcast, I think we've had one sponsor for one episode, maybe. And then after that, it was like, it's not really worthwhile because we have people who support us on Patreon because they like the show. That's what we need to focus on. And that's, I don't know, in a world of like, I know that we can make X dollars from sponsorship. It's really awesome and comforting to know that we're actually being supported by the people that listen. So just want to say thanks. Very grateful to everybody.
Thank you very much.
I got to thank our top supporters there, especially Wise Old Dow, Evan and Caitlin, Corey Ward, Malton Make. Oh, I lost the list. Works by Solo, Torbil Terry, Freeman Finishings, a new one from Sean Rubino. Hey, Sean.
Oh, hey, Sean. What's up, buddy?
Yeah, and Make Build Modify. So big thanks to everybody. And if you want to support the show and get access to our little after show that we do after the show, go to patreon.com/makingit. Check it out over there. What are we talking about?
Well, I was going to talk a little bit about some of the new technology I saw, and we prompted both of you guys to come up with some interesting new ideas for some things that are out there that weren't necessarily at this show, but are really worth talking about. And just everybody say, what do you get out of Fabtech? What did you get out of Fabtech? What did you get out of Fabtech? And for me, the most important thing, and for me, and for anybody that wants to, if you're on the fence about walking a trade show, it's the innovation that is the most important thing. To go to a trade show like this and you see the little guy that has like a little idea, he might have spent his whole life savings on this idea, or the giant company that has these things that like perform magic that you didn't know are even possible. By the way, this show is incredible. There was 10 million pounds of steel on the showroom floor here.
Oh my gosh.
I'm like, when you see them giant, like lifting a machine with a giant crane that sometimes flips over when you're watching some of these YouTube videos. I always watch the crane failure videos, but they're moving these machines. They're the size of an 18-wheeler, and they probably weigh as much as 7 18-wheelers because they're just thick 2-inch, 3-inch, 4-inch thick solid steel. These crazy benders, like I didn't see the machine, but everybody came to our side of the showroom floor, and they're like, "Did you see that giant machine bending I-beams?" There was apparently some crazy bender that was bending I-beams that were like 10 inches by like 8 inches, like solid steel beams that were turning them into hoops. So, just the incredible human effort to bring all these machines, put them in the showroom floor, and then the electric. I'm like. Haggling with my electric guy. He's like, "Oh, I can't bring in 200." I'm like, these guys, the amount of electric that was going on yesterday. Everybody's booth has a plasma cutter. Everybody's booth has air. Everybody's booth has a robot. Everybody's booth has some kind of hydraulic thing bending something. Everybody's booth has a laser. The amount of voltage that must go through that place, and you think like, wow, It's funny. I at one point I got to weld my project. We all built a project at the booth, and I didn't work on mine until the second day. The minute I pulled the trigger, I'm like, "Oh my God, this is what welding is all about." But I never welded with 220 volts because on the showroom floor they have 200. I welded with 110, and the difference between welding with 220 volts and at 110 volts, it's like night and day.
Really?
Yeah, it's like walking through sand, and then all of a sudden you're walking on concrete. It's such an amazing difference. I mean, I didn't realize the difference until I pulled the trigger. I'm like, oh my God, like this is like magic. And
so
I have the same exact
difference?
machine.
What was the difference?
You got more electric, more current, more voltage.
Well, I know that, but I mean, like, how could you tell that it was different? What was the feeling,
like,
or what was the?
I had a puddle the size of a dime, like boom. When I'm welding one time, I'm like, but
Gotcha.
Compared to, zzz, and now I have a puddle the size of a dime.
Okay, whoever created the dubstep, rewind about 15 seconds.
Oh wait,
and there's a bunch of samples for you. Okay.
Can I give some? I've been wanting to do this dubstep sample. Listen to this, and I will tell you what it is after. You guys could see, but.
Oh, that's
okay. There you go. That's your sound.
That's really loud.
It sounds great in headphones.
Oh yeah.
We'll tell everybody what it is next week.
Tune in.
Yeah. Guess what it is. How about that? And we'll
the
tell
funny
you
thing
what
is
it next
every
week.
morning I do it, and I drive everybody around me crazy.
No.
Yeah.
I can't imagine that. Anyway, yeah. So you 220. Sorry, I interrupted. 220 on the welding.
Yeah.
was
So
awesome.
the 220, you just have more voltage, more current. I mean, I'm not an electrician, but you just have more power. I guess it's the difference of like gardening and you're like watering your plants with like a hose that's a half inch, and then all of a sudden you get a hose that's like an inch and a quarter, and you're like, wow, look at all this water, I can go home earlier. So that's basically the difference.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So, but just the show is incredible. I mean, the people were incredible. So many. Just on a side note, so many people in the industry watch what we're doing. There's guys that have like $500,000 laser cutters and plasma cutters and flame cutters. They're like, what you guys do is incredible. You know, you're inspiring the youth to get into this industry. I'm talking about all of us, everybody in the YouTube community. And like I walk into a booth and it's like people you wouldn't even think in a million years they would have any idea who any of us are. Oh my God, Jimmy Diresta from YouTube. Oh my God, I listened to your podcast. And like this is a guy with like some crazy corporation on his chest from Japan. And like, what do you do? He's like, oh, we make this laser which cuts pipes for pipelines. So we're penetrating every aspect of life, which is just so amazing to know that. We're not just like hitting up other, adults like us in the garage, but people big, people small. You have guys from like these crazy, like salesmen. Like, for instance, the guys from Fastenal came to visit me so that I could sign a funny image of like one of the guys that works there. He's probably listening. I wish I would remember his name. They cut out this funny silhouette of him with a little fake doll body. Like somebody did like a Photoshop of him. And they wanted me to take it because he wasn't able to come to the show. So they took a picture of me with him and a sign. Yeah, it was really cute. And I'm like, wow. And like, oh, there's so many fans. You should come to the booth. So I went over and said hello to the people at Fastenal. And, but that was just one example of a few. And it's just nice to know that we're penetrating the world, and that we're inspiring so many people. And on top of that, just the fans that came out to say, they really love what we do and they're inspired and they're finally starting their channel or they're finally quitting their job. We talk about this kind of over probably too much, but it never gets tired to hear people achieving their goals and getting to where they want to be in life, and knowing that we can help is just amazing.
That stuff is super motivating. I mean, like, I don't want to talk specifics, but we got an email this past week. Was it this past week?
Yeah, that was
from a guy that made me cry. Like,
yeah, me too.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
And I mean, I know that I don't say this to like inflate what we do at all, but just the fact that like doing something that you love, which is what we all do, can have an effect on somebody in a way that you can't expect. That boggles my mind.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And when we hear stuff like that or get emails or talk to people in person, I mean that stuff is super motivating to continue. So I guess just to wrap that up, like if anybody out there is like thinking that your passion may not necessarily have a positive impact somewhere, that's not necessarily the case. Just because you can't see it doesn't mean it doesn't happen. So do it.
Do it.
There.
Oh my God.
Ah, fire!
Oh, another fire.
Okay, there's a toilet behind you. Put the phone in the toilet.
Hold on. What is that green dot? Oh, there it is. It was really far down. You see the green dot was here. I'm going to turn it.
Oh. Why do you have 25 alarms on your phone?
Yeah, there's also a little
15
switch
seconds.
on there too. You can just silence your phone.
Oh,
It turns everything off at once. Yeah.
Is that what that is? But if I turn it off, I won't answer my phone for the next 2 weeks because I forget to turn it back on.
Yeah,
Sure.
no
I'm trying to call you for hours. What is that? No, so technology at the show is just incredible. And that's what we're going to talk a little bit about technology. From the small guy, this guy had this crazy clamp. I just was emailing with him just a minute ago. This guy had these crazy clamps, and it's just a father-son team that came up with this great invention. And I love the screw clamps, like the Jorgensen with like the 2 chunks of wood and the 2 threaded rods. I love those clamps. I use them for so many different things. And these guys came up with a clamp that works very similar to that, but it's a completely new idea. And when and they have it made, they're like, you can't strip this, you can't bottom. It's all for metal, but it could also be used for wood. I said, why can't we use these for wood? And he goes, oh, because you'll crush everything. I'm like, well, I mean, I'm not an animal. At least I don't think so. I could tighten it down. And he's like, well, if you want to use them for wood, that would be a new market for us. So they're going to send me some samples to play with. But from a little guy like that to a giant company that has like a new type of CNC something or other, and just walking around the show, too, and seeing how people CNC stuff and how people plasma cut stuff, just with my eyes, just soaking things in like, okay, now I know what I'm going to do on my plasma table. Oh, okay, that's cool. When I shop for my laser, that's what I want to look for. So it was just really inspiring. So if anybody's on the fence about ever going to like a Fabtech or a SEMA, which I didn't go to SEMA, was in Vegas. That's really more like race car and like motorsports related. This is more fabrication, factory related.
You think Somebody like me who doesn't do hardly any metalworking would still walk away inspired and energized.
Yeah, because it was funny. There was like these giant. Everybody's got a robot arm, like a fifth axis robot arm, like you see like tack welding in like a car commercial. Everybody's got one of those, and they're not actually necessarily. They're all made by. I can only imagine the robot trade show. There must be a billion robots. Everybody,
gosh,
and then they're like the robot name, like they're all licensed or bought from some other giant company somewhere else. So, for instance, like Lincoln is not making a robot arm. They have one, and they show how their technology interfaces with it. And for instance, like ESOP doesn't make robot arms, but they have 10 robot arms in their booth, and they show how they interact with it. But seeing I want one of these robots now. What the hell am I going to do with it? I have no idea. I'll figure it out when I get one. But one of these fifth axis, it's just like a big one robot arm with like a pointer on the end. In this case, it was a welding gun. But I want one. I don't know what I'm going to do with it. But I talked to a couple of guys. I'm like, if you want to send me one of those, I'll gladly take it and play with it.
You can use it to press the play button on your tape recorder to like play. Just have this giant robot reach over and go boop. And
you know what I could have
plays.
it do? I could like pre-program it so I'll set my iPhone in a spot, and every time my alarm goes off, it'll just go.
Make sure it goes all the way through and just
It crushes crushes the screen. So I have no interest in like those kind of robotics, really. I mean, I didn't, but now I'm like, wow, I want one of those. Because visually, it's just so cool looking. What could I do with it? I don't know. If I had it in the shop, I'd make it stir my coffee. Just like stupid stuff like that is just hilarious.
Yeah.
And so you'd go away from this show going, oh my God, I didn't know that was possible. Oh my God. And everyone's got these things called a positioner, which is like if you're going to weld like a pipe, it turns the pipe slowly. And I'm thinking to myself, wow, that would be a cool thing to, showcase a product on, like a little turntable. I went by the Fine FEIN booth, and they have all kinds of new ways of using a belt grinder, almost like the way Make It Extreme uses his angle grinder for so many different, to motorize so many different techniques and so many objects. FEIN is doing the same thing. Fine is the company that's all orange. They're using their angle grinder to motorize so many different object sanders and different types of things utilized in metalworking. I mean, it was metalworking centric, but they obviously do a lot of woodworking tools. But just like going through and saying, oh, I have an angle grinder, I have a motor, I have a rotational motor source. How can I use it to do something other than that? What it's intended for. And then just so many new abrasives, and you realize I'm struggling through grinding this and grinding that, or sanding this and sanding that, and this guy has a brand new technology that he's like, oh no, this will cut your time in half, I promise you, here, try it. And you're like, oh my God, that works so well. So just doing that, walking around, and if you do go to these trade shows, it's kind of a fine line. I remember when I would go to these shows, and I'd be very intimidated to walk up to the people because I didn't want to engage in like, oh, so how many truckloads are you going to buy? I'm like, oh, I'm just a little moron that doesn't do anything. But now having a purpose and saying, oh, I have a YouTube channel and I review products and so on and so on. And, just passing my business card off and being really interested in what they're doing and having the ability to talk because I got something to give them back. I mean, now, not necessarily making a deal on the spot, but saying, hey, I'm an influencer in the world and tell me what you got. If this product's cool enough, and maybe I'll take it away with me and talk about it. But so I just got a lot out of this show where in the past I would have just walked up and down the aisles and just kind of looked from afar and said, oh, that's cool, that's cool, that's cool. But this time around, I really did get involved. And I wish I would have walked more of the show, considering time. I walked kind of in the vicinity of where the Lincoln booth was because I was there with Lincoln. And I kept having to go back and check in.
So were there any specific, I mean, obviously the robots are cool and everything, but were there any specific technologies or tools that you said like, oh, that could be used for this specific purpose in my shop, or I could do this specific type of thing if I had that?
Well, one thing I noticed a lot of, and I saw it at DeWalt, is like new grinders. I think Metabo makes a new grinder where it's got like a long, low, flat head. So it's, if you want to grind in somewhere where, because usually the grinder has like a big knuckle on the back of, the device that actually transfers the rotation to at 90 degrees. It's like a big gear thing. And now they're making these things where it's really long and flat. So that's something that you're seeing more of. I've seen a couple different companies that have that long, low, flat grinder so you can get into smaller, slimmer spaces. Or if you're working on a motorcycle, you can get into a part of a frame, like maybe between the motor and the frame where you wouldn't be able before. There was this crazy machine that was as long as a truck, and you put a piece of steel in, it sucks it in, and there was a guy programming it, and I was kind of picking his brain. It sucks it in, it perforates it, die cuts it. It might actually laser cut it because he wasn't able to actually run the machine. He was running it during the show, which I wasn't able to get over there. It was really far away from my booth. But it's a full-on metal bender. And he was showing me samples. He goes, you put this piece of metal in and this comes out. And it's like an electrical box, like that you would all fold it up. Or a mailbox. Or, he said this machine makes a lot of these things that you could pull a paper towel out of in a bathroom. And it's funny to me to think, like, this machine probably cost $1 million, maybe $500,000, who knows? How many paper towel holders do you need to sell to cover the cost of this thing? If you think, like, okay, like there's one of these paper towel holders in every rest stop. Like, you can go from here around the globe 3 times, and it doesn't seem like you make enough of those things to justify the cost of this $1 million machine that perforates steel. But obviously,
yeah.
I mean, I'm looking at over your shoulder, Bob. Like, it could, like, I see you have like screw boxes that maybe that's a metal frame. I don't know. Maybe it's plastic. But if it was a metal frame, it's the kind of thing that could stamp out those metal frame sections that would get tack welded together to become like a series of drawer holders. Yeah. And so it's funny. It's just amazing to me that there's so much technology there. There was millions of pounds of steel on the floor and electric and those things going. And for instance, there's a company called Alumatank, and I met Bob and Terry, the guys that own Alumatank, and they've given me metal. They sent me metal. They're fans of me, and they sent me aluminum to experiment with. They mentioned that they bought a big laser. I don't know which one, but a couple of guys said it's a huge one, so they went to go talk. So a company like that can justify the cost because they make a lot of gas tanks for giant trucks. That, like, the gas tanks that have like steps cut into them, like the big drum tanks with like a step cut into them. Like, they make all that stuff, and that all has it's big contracts, and so companies like that. But when I'm looking at it, I'm thinking to myself, wow, it's just amazing that there's that much industry and technology and the economy to support these tremendous machines. And it's funny, me and Taylor's mom was there. Taylor didn't come, but Taylor's mom was there, and I walked around with her, and we started talking to these guys that make this giant, tremendous plasma cut CNC. And the cool thing about it, and this kind of jogs my thought processes, every CNC is attached to like a bed of a table. But some of these CNCs, I saw a couple of them, including the one I'm about to talk about, you basically have a giant gantry. So you have 2 big sides, a huge gantry above, and like we're all like looking at numbers like, oh, my thing is 18 by 24. They have some of these big industrial CNCs. It's just a huge thing you could park a car under. So it might be 10 by 10 feet or 15 by 20 feet, and it's a huge gantry. And under that gantry, there's a table here for plasma cutting. There's framework here to hold a piece of beam. There's a thing over there that holds a tube. So you have it's a multi-process robot plasma cutter. And under the area of its gantry, you have all these different processes you can do. So it's a type of machine that has a lot of flexibility.
Wow. As
opposed to the gantry being attached to the table that only CNCs would, or only, plasma cuts. So that was a pretty cool thing that I saw. For instance, there was another guy that had a laser cutter, and the gantry went to the floor. So you had 2 train tracks, like 6-foot train tracks, 10 feet apart. And the whole gantry rode on those 2 train tracks. And then you had that was your X, and then your Y was the whole length of, like, say, 12 feet wide. And then underneath there, you have the table here to do this process, and you have a table over here to do that and you can walk between the tables. So
that's crazy.
That was kind of mind-opening, thinking like, oh, wow, that's like a different way of approaching a CNC machine. That's in a shop with a big floor. So just stuff like that. And it's those little things like that, obviously, is like, we're looking at $500,000 machines. Oh, so Taylor's mom and I were talking to the one guy that had one of these giant machines, and he goes, this one's on sale, because you never know who you're talking to. Taylor's mom could be, a sales rep for a giant company, and the guy literally goes, if you want this, it could probably do better. He goes, it's $500,000, but if you want it, we could probably do better. I'm not sure how much. I got to talk to my boss. I'm like, this guy's like dealing in, like, he's talking like we're talking about, a used car, and it's a $500,000 plasma cutter on this giant gantry. And Taylor's mom was like feigning interest because I was there, but it was so funny. The guy goes, "Whoa, it's $500,000, but we could probably give you a break if you want to talk to the boss." And I go, "Let's go look at the other one." And I pulled her away. I'm like, "Let's go look at the other one and compare." But
well, if it's that cheap, there must be something wrong with it.
Right.
We're off. Let's go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dave, you were going to talk about something. You had a cool project. A product you were going to talk about that's been popping up in the media lately.
Well, I've been seeing it. They must have a big advertising campaign because it keeps showing up in Facebook ads. And it's a little Goliath CNC, which you just set on top of the workpiece, and it somehow maps itself and is able to cut out pieces out of it, plywood or whatever. I just don't understand, because it's on like 3 wheels. I don't understand how it stays in place without slipping and moving.
So I don't know much about it, but I have seen that ad, and then I heard a conversation, and I can't remember if it was at Maker Faire or somewhere, where originally the idea was to have it completely independent on those 3 wheels, and it would, be able to move itself around and do everything as it kind of said in the video. But I think they ended up having to add 2 connection points to it to lock it down to the table, or to give it a reference point. I can't remember what the purpose was, but I think there's a line that comes off of each side of it that connects to the surface. I think. Somebody can correct me. But.
There's so many Kickstarter, Indiegogo things. You see all these technologies, and it's like coming soon, and I get all I try to ignore them now because I get all hyped up. I'm like, that looks amazing and awesome. Oh, it's not coming out for 2 years, and then 2 years later, it's a different tool than what it was or advertised. But
so I'm looking at the website right now. Sorry, and there is a photo of it with a line, like a steel cable that comes off of 2 points from the top of it that go to, not to the workpiece, but maybe to the surface that it's on. So anyway, go ahead.
That technology seems like it really only would cut vectors, because I can't imagine you'd be able to keep riding over the same surface while it's like 3-dimensional.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah.
You can't do like a lot in X, because if you do a moon surface, for instance, then that thing's going to start rolling and bumping on that top surface.
Yeah, that makes sense. I am not excited about that tool at all now.
It's funny. I didn't stop to think about it either. I'm thinking, wow, it's only going to make vector cuts because... And on top of that, it must weigh a lot, because it has to. The friction and you guys know what a router will do if you don't hold it. It'll just jump across the room. So the fact that thing is going to be router cutting and free walking around on top of the surface, it's going to have to weigh probably 80, 90 pounds to keep it in place.
But even if like you're cutting like a vector of a star, even before it gets to the end of that point, you would think those wheels are going to fall into those grooves. That's
ride in and out of the cut you're making.
Yeah, I wonder what they're doing to solve that.
They're going to put it on a gantry.
Well, it does have it looks like auto Z-axis calibration, so maybe it's keeping track of the Z variation as it moves around. I don't know how it would work over that, though. I don't know. Somebody from Goliath. Let us know.
Yeah, I would love to learn more. I don't want to crap on anybody's product. I have questions about it, and it seems too good to be true. And now that I see that cable is there, that answers a few of my questions.
Yeah, there was another thing kind of like that in that. Did we talk about the little desktop laser cube? Was that on here that we talked about that?
I think that is a piece of junk.
Yeah, well, anyway, there was a Kickstarter for this little cube that looked like a GoPro, like a session, and it was a laser, and it was on a tripod, and you could stand it on your desk and like point it down at something on your desk and laser onto thing, which is such a horrible, dangerous idea.
You can laser an image on your fingernail.
But it's actually a thing, and they put it on Kickstarter, and Kickstarter actually talked to a guy I know at Kickstarter at Maker Faire, and he said, yeah, we shut that thing down really quickly because there were no safety measures in place. And so they ended up shutting down that and then bringing it back to Kickstarter with an optional container that you could put it in. And so they framed it as like, if you want to use this little adjustable laser, just make sure you use it in the safety of this special box. You don't have to, but it's there, and they can. So I think it's back on Kickstarter with some safety considerations kind of tacked onto it. But stuff like that it's really cool that technology exists, that you can have a laser that you can actually engrave things with that's that small, that's self-contained, But I mean, good grief.
You guys remember about a year ago, Coup Drone was popping up between everything you were doing online? Coup Drone. Does that ring a bell to any of you guys? Coup Drone? It's like it's $100 4K drone. And so I was like, for $100, so I bought into the thing for $100 just on a whim. It's probably late at night and I was doing other stuff and it's a moment of weakness. And so the whole year I got emails. It's like, sorry, the drone is going to be out next week. Sorry, we're only making it in black right now. Sorry, the app's getting redone. I'm sorry, it only works for Mac right now. It's going to work for Google Plus in a couple of weeks. I just never opened them. I could just see from the first 3 lines it's something that I don't care about. And a couple days ago, before I left for Chicago, the Coup Drone was on my doorstep. And I popped it open, and it's this little drone. It's like as big as a pack of cigarettes. And I downloaded the app. Within a minute, the thing was flying, but it is completely uncontrollable. It's just going, it's just like flying sideways into the wall and hits the wall and goes right to the ground. I pick it up, I start again, it goes, flies in the other direction, hits the wall and goes to the ground. I cannot control the damn thing at all. It's supposed to have all kinds of GPS, and it's as light as a feather, and it's actually, one interesting thing about it is when you're flying it on your iPhone, the image that the camera sees is the entire background of the control panel. So you're looking right through all the controls at the whole image. So your whole iPhone turns into what the camera sees, with like the left and right thumb adjustable knobs right over the image. So I thought that was a cool graphic solution. So you're not looking at a little screen, with all these controls around it. You're looking right through the full square iPhone image of what the camera is seeing, and all these different controls are kind of masked across it, like a heads-up display. But it's completely unflyable. So the Coup Drone, thumbs down. I said if I took it outside, it would just probably. I didn't take it outside, but I was with Kyle for a minute. He actually Instagrammed me playing with it. If I took it outside, the thing would just disappear because it would just go and fly completely away. I wouldn't be able to control it. I'd have to try to intentionally crash it, which wasn't easy too because it didn't do anything you wanted to do. Anyway, that's the Coup Drone. Don't buy it. That's my review. 2 thumbs down.
I saw this thing. It was an ad that popped up, and I just put a link in the notes here called Yeehaw Wand. Terrible name. But it's like this. If you click on the video and you watch the video, I'm going to mute it here. You basically have your phone and this little magic wand, and your phone has the camera on, and you find an object that you want to draw, and then you wave this magic wand in front of the phone over the outline of this thing that you want to draw, and it draws this thing in 3D space. And it makes a 3D model that you can then like 3D print or CNC or whatever. You get to like 30 seconds in the video and you can start to see some of the magic. And I use magic in quotes because Wait,
it didn't have real magic? Oh, no.
What the... I'm looking at this. What the hell's going on? I don't get it. He's making a necklace or something?
It's a little bit past that. You'll see some more 3D objects. And like, oh, that looks cool. It looks kind of hard to use. But if that works well, that could be useful for somebody like me who's not very good at drawing 3D objects. I don't know. It's future technology that probably needs a couple more iterations before it's usable. Yeah. Kickstarter coming soon, so it's a ways away, but
yeah. So they had an idea and they made a video about a potential idea.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Now they need the money to try to execute that idea.
All we have to do is figure out how to actually do this, and then we'll be good. Yeah.
We just hire some guy with a neck beard, and he'll figure it out.
Yeah, you have that. You could be that guy. Yeah. There's not a whole lot of new technology that I've been like super excited about lately. As far as like brand new stuff. I mean, I know that the Shaper Origin is now shipping, and so people are actually getting their hands on those. And that's something that, it doesn't feel new because it's been talked about and been like we've seen it for so long, but it's still pretty awesome. And it's still new because now people are actually getting to use it for the first time. And same for the Glowforge. It's just a laser, so it doesn't really feel new anymore. because the delays have been so great, but people are actually now getting access to it and able to start making stuff with it. So, I mean, I'm kind of excited about those things. I think I'm still not as excited about CNC as I should be, because I think some people have this expectation of me that I'm like super duper techie and I think in code and, I'm like that type. And in reality, like I do the tech stuff that I need to do to get something done.
Can I say one thing? Bob is wearing a heads-up display with like one eyeball, a robot eye, and he's saying that he's not a tech guy. And he's
but other than that, I mean,
he's like half Borg.
But I mean, like, as far as like really deep diving into CNC and like being able to take an idea and a complex idea and get it out CNC'd, that process still makes me kind of internally go, ugh. Like, I don't look forward to like, I got to build it in Fusion and then I got to figure out the cam for it and then I got to get that to the machine and like, ugh, it just feels
I feel
like
the
tedious.
same way.
And so I mean, the thing that I'm saying about that is that I feel like I should, and I kind of do want to be more adept at that process so that it's not such a hassle.
Yeah.
But that is what will make the future production and prototyping and stuff way easier. But the process of like you have to invest the time into understanding all that stuff and kind of, maintaining it in your brain so you don't have to relearn it every time you want to use the machine. And that's kind of where I'm at with a lot of those things is the process to get it done is still a hassle for me.
I thought that using a CNC was cheating. I thought it just did all the work for you.
well, it does, but like cheating is hard.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what. I used Fusion 360 a couple weeks ago to make a model for a client, and it came in absolutely perfect. They gave me some hokey sketch, which was really out of scale. I'm like, if you guys think this is what it's going to look like, let me correct you. And I drew it to scale with Fusion, and they were like, oh man, that's exactly what we wanted. And I was able to take pictures of it and color it and everything. So that was like, to me, that was that was kind of like a little bit of a threshold of like a successful 3D model. It was simple. It wasn't a complicated model. But I was able to show there was a garment rack with a couple of details to have some cross branding on it and stuff. So I was able to show them that. They understood it. And then I made my actual prototype, which looks exactly like the SketchUp model. Exactly, because I colored it and everything. And I say SketchUp, I meant to say Fusion. And so for me, that was a win. I really felt like, oh, wow, okay, I can use this technology to my advantage to show somebody who has no interest in technology. All they know is they want this thing. They don't care how I get there. But I want them to fully understand what they're going to get. So that I don't take the time to make it and they go, oh, I didn't know it was going to look like this. Right away when they sent me their hand sketch, I'm like, this is way out of scale. If you really think it's going to be that wide to how high it is, it's exactly the opposite. So anyway, I used Fusion, and it was a big win for me that I was able to get it done. I was able to get it done good, and they were able to understand it. So
I mean, Fusion's a really good example of what I'm talking about here. Like, it's awesome. It does amazing things. I love it. I also don't know how to use it. So, like, I can model things from a SketchUp perspective. Like, I can make an object that looks like the thing that I kind of want it to look like. But that doesn't necessarily take advantage of any of the things that make Fusion, Like, I could just do that in SketchUp. Fusion, being able to rescale things and being able to make, like, mechanisms that move and understand how the pieces interact and have friction and have, you can do testing and all this stuff. That, like, just the thought of putting in the time to learning all that, I just don't like the learning process of that makes me not want to do it. I want to know how to do it. I don't want to invest that time into learning that stuff.
Yeah.
And that's just a me thing. But it's interesting. I see this beautiful technology that can do so much and could make everything in the future that much easier, but I have a really hard time getting myself to invest into learning, all the correct steps and everything right now. So I guess that's kind of where I'm stuck on that particular new technology.
I'm wondering, when are we going to see a CNC with a camera built into it, like the Glowforge and the Muse? Because I would love to see where it's going to carve on a particular piece, especially for somebody like a sign maker. Like you can line it up and you can position it on the wasteboard and set your 0, but to actually see where it's going to carve on the piece would be super valuable. And
Yeah.
even so, after you set your z-axis, what if there was a laser that could measure and map out the surface? So if you had something that's not flat, like what you would normally put in a CNC, it could work around that. I see that technology. I don't know. I see Glowforge and Inventables. They kind of partnered on some materials thing. Like they should partner on a machine.
Yeah. Dan and Zach, you heard it here first.
Yes.
David had a great idea. Put it together.
And I'm sure they've thought of this. I'm sure they're talking about this. But
No, that was your idea, man. Own that.
Yeah, I'll take that. I'll take that.
He gets 10%.
I just patented it. I just wrote it in an envelope and mailed it to myself. It just came back.
I don't know if that works anymore.
No, it's sweet. My uncle told me it works perfect. He knows a lawyer.
Well, you guys have anything else on new tech that you're excited about? Because I have to do a live stream in 24 minutes.
Yes.
And we still have to do it.
It's not necessarily tech, but I had to break away. I don't know if you guys said, "Hey, David left for 10 minutes," but I broke away because I had a delivery. I just got a new planer dropped off, and it's a 16-inch planer, and it's got the helical cutter head.
Oh, the cut.
And
Oh,
so
my goodness.
it has like 18 million little knives on it, and the technology.
It's a lot of knives.
It's a lot of knives. I can't even imagine what it's going to be like to change them. But I'm excited about the technology of having that helical cutter head, because it's supposed to be a lot quieter, a lot smoother, works with non-straight grain woods a lot better. And I don't know. I mean, it's not tech, but it's cool.
It is. Tech doesn't have to be electrical, Right. I
Right.
mean, it's still technology they figured out how to make those cutting heads better. That's actually something I'm really curious to hear how that works for you, because I've thought about investing in those cutting heads for my planer and replacing you can replace those on a lot of other planers. So yeah, I'll be interested to hear how that works.
The good thing about those, and just a quick little 411 for people that don't know, it's a million little squares that overlap one another. So there's maybe 3 bands of them, like DNA, and each one of them is a square, and each one of the squares has 4 sides, of course, and each one of the 4 sides is a sharp cutting side. So that if you put your thing through the planer and you have one of them gets a nick in it from a nail, and then you get that one streak that's always in the piece of wood, you could then turn those 2 or 3 heads that are nicked to the other side, and then you get rid of that nick. So you have whatever, there's obviously multiple, so there's 4 times as many sharp cutting options on each helical cutting head.
Yeah.
And a good example is Frank Hallworth's big joiner has the helical. He has one like mine, but he took the time and energy to retrofit it with a modern cutting head, which is the helical cutting head.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so go take a look. Yep.
Cool. Well, you guys been watching anything awesome?
Yes. So briefly, Jimmy mentioned Make It Extreme, and that's my pick of the week. He just put out a video a few days ago making a propane blacksmith forge, and it's cool. Everything this guy does is just so
He's
cool.
insane.
He is totally insane. You can tell he's a super crazy smart dude because he makes things out of other things, and they all come out perfect, it looks like. So, and they're just well edited videos. They're entertaining.
Yeah, he's getting better and better, and his extreme is getting more and more extreme. It's crazy.
I always kind of feel like, man, how can he top that? Like, and then he makes some crazy other machine that you could buy, or you could make it, and he's nuts.
Yeah.
Really cool stuff.
Well, I'm going to talk about my bro, Kyle Stumpin' Horst, who built my building, and he's doing a daily, well, he's behind, obviously, because he had a building to make, but he did a recording, or he documented every single day. So every 24-hour period of the build, which is about 14 days, he has a video coming out. So he's got day 5 coming out probably tonight. He just got back into Illinois. He just texted me while we were talking. So he's got day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4 up. And so you could actually see the process in detail. And it's becoming to be a really successful series for him. I'm looking at the video now. He's breaking 100,000 on one. He's 60,000, 70,000, 70,000. So he's doing really well with this series. And that's a testament to how many people really want to see this process, in depth. So it's a daily vlog, the build of the shop in my backyard right now, up to what he's responsible for, which is basically the envelope and the roof and the structure itself.
Nice.
So take a look at that.
Awesome. So it's actually kind of funny that we talked about technology today, because my pick was going to be this before we decided. Somebody sent us a link to a musician named Nigel John Stanford. Did you guys look at this with the robots?
Oh yeah, I did. That was incredible, man. That was,
oh my goodness.
Oh my,
it's crazy.
That was mind blowing. And talking about seeing all these robots at this show.
Yeah.
They were all doing this crazy stuff. This is what an incredible video. I forgot about that.
So yeah, and he has a couple of them, like a couple of different songs, but he writes this music and then programs these big robot arms that Jimmy's been talking about to actually play the music.
And I forgot all about that. Wow. Blow my mind.
It's crazy. Crazy.
And people might look at that and say it's all fake, but you know it's not fake. I mean,
it's not.
No one's going to go through the effort to fake that when they could actually really make it work.
Yeah, and I mean, as precise as those machines are, there's no reason that they couldn't make it work. I mean, all the,
That's what I'm saying.
Those robots are made to, pick and place these tiny little components so they could easily pluck a string or hit a drum or, whatever.
And ultimately, like for a minute, I'm like, wow, is it? I know it wasn't, but I'm like, you could create all this world in CGI, but it would be probably easier just to program the robots to do the real thing.
Yeah, probably. Really, really cool. He's got a couple of different videos that are a similar thing where he uses technology to play the music that's kind of about technology. So, yeah, go check them out for sure. You guys got anything else?
After show
That's
time.
it. You got a live feed to do.
I do. So, thanks for listening. We'll see you guys next week, and on to the after show.
That's it. Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
I love technology, by the way.
Have you ever seen Napoleon Dynamite?
Yeah.
Yeah. I love technology.
Oh, I missed that part. I must have went to get
Oh, really?
popcorn.
Oh, man, that's like one of the best parts. Anyway.